We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Tuesday, April 8th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and thank you for starting your morning with News Generation. Joining us today is Kwon Ji-yeon.
Hello, Eugene.
Hello, Ji-yeon, and Im Sang-young.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. That both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As usual, we're going to begin our Tuesday with our keyword news. Our keyword today is election. Following the Constitutional Court's decision last Friday to uphold former President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment, South Korea is now required to hold a snap presidential election within 60 days. And as of now, Tuesday, June 3rd, appears to be the most likely date. Citing an unnamed government official, Yonhap News Agency reported on Monday that a motion to hold the election on that date will be submitted and voted on during Tuesday's cabinet meeting. June 3rd is the last day the election could be held based on the 60-day constitutional deadline. So I want to ask you, Sang-yeong, what are your expectations heading into this snap election? Do you think we'll face a very tight race just like we saw back in 2022?
Right, so now we don't have the final list of candidates for the next election, so I think it's kind of premature to say who's going to actually win for the next election. But I agree that depending on the outcome, many things will change. If I recall the election that was held right after the impeachment of President Park Geun-hye, then candidate Moon Jae-in outperformed all the other candidates at the time since the right-wing party was undergoing chaos and dispersed, and the right-wing party was divided into multiple and small-sized conservative groups. And although Hong Joon-pyo was on the second place with 24% supporting rate at the time, it was no match for Moon Jae-in's 41%. So this time, I assume that the People Power Party will try to consolidate its member and to bring up a promising candidate that could compete against the figure from Democratic Party, which everyone is expecting to be Lee Jae-myung.
So we will have to keep an eye on which candidates will be the front runners for the two major parties. Now, what do you think, Jian?
Well, it's certainly a very important, sensitive and delicate moment for this country, Korea. Well, given the circumstances now, a snap election was inevitable. And we might be in it for another nail-biter, just like in 2022. And public sentiments are divided at this very moment.
Right.
And, the outcome could hinge on turnout. That said, I'd rather reserve my judgment until the candidates and platforms are clear. So it's indeed a waiting time, truly, indeed, for all of us.
A lot to look forward to, right?
Yes, indeed.
Right. So if the snap election is set for June 3rd, which the announcement will likely be announced today, candidates must register by May 11th, and the official campaign period will run from May 12th to June 2nd. And any public official wishing to run must resign from their post by May 4th, and once a winner is confirmed, the new president will begin his or her term immediately. And that was our keyword news for this Tuesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Tuesday means it's time to tap into what's trending on Korea's cultural front. Take a look at the screen for more on today's topic. Last Saturday, April 5th, was ArborDay here in Korea. It was first celebrated in 1946 to highlight the importance of trees, forests, and protecting our green spaces. These days, one simple way people are embracing nature is by keeping plants, not just as decoration, but as companions. That's right, we are talking about pet plants. So this year, the message of Arbor Day hit a little differently. With Korea recently dealing with devastating wildfires, more people are thinking seriously about our relationship with nature. So starting off, Jiyoung, could you please walk us through the latest situation on South Korea's wildfires?
Of course. Well, in fact, Arbor Day it is observed to encourage the cherishing and careful cultivation of trees. Unfortunately, wildfires recently swept through northern Gyeongsang-do province in Korea for several days, causing death and widespread damage. It was especially heartbreaking to see centuries-old trees and countless plants consumed by the flames, that is. And more recently, wildfires in Sancheong and Hadong in Gyeongsang-namdo province prompt emergency response efforts to prevent secondary damage from expected heavy rain. This disaster reminds us how delicate nature is and how important it is to take care of our environment. environment.
And as we just saw on New Day at Arirang, firefighters are bracing to contain another wildfire that happened in the region. And also strong winds are in the forecast today, which is really raising concerns about possible wildfire outbreaks once again. But they're not just an issue in Korea, because Hanya, we've been seeing them break out in other parts of the world, right?
Right. So wildfires have been going rampant last year, especially. So around 64,000 wildfire cases were reported in the U.S. For the year 2024 alone. And most of these fires broke out on the West Coast area, ranging from Oregon to Southern California. And in 2023, Maui Island, Hawaii, was also struck with severe wildfire, and more than 100 people got killed. In the same year, Canada also went through record-breaking wildfires, and about 18 million hectares were burned. And experts say that these wildfires are the result of a climate crisis that we're seeing right now.
Right. So now we're going to head back to the growing trend of pet plants, because keeping plants at home or in the office isn't new, but now people are treating them more like pets, that is, in other words, like family. And this trend seems to be especially popular among young people, right?
That's right. Well, this is kind of a trend, kind of a thing that you post on your social network these days. Well, it's incredibly popular, especially among the younger generation. According to a survey by the Rural Development Administration, around 17 million people in South Korea now keep plants at their home. And take a look at this. Those in their 30s and under make up the largest group, that is at 37%. And, you know, think about it. Traditionally, looking after plants was regarded more as a hobby for older adults or people with a home-based lifestyle. But now, the younger generation, the MZ generation, is leading this trend this way, even surpassing the 40s and at 34% and the 50s at just 15%. But personally, I must say, I wasn't always into plants myself. I could hardly keep one alive, but now I have so many pots in my house. Well, I started getting into this plant, taking care of the house plants now, because what really sparked my interest in this area was when my mom and dad exhibited a garden piece at the Koyang International Flower Expo. They have exhibited a garden piece, art piece, under the name of Father's Arm, Father's Embrace. And that was kind of a good experience for me, that getting into this area, this houseplants area.
So you've now become a plant parent as well.
Yes, that is right.
And not to mention that I have my pet cactus right on my desk, even though you can't see. And Sangyo, I also want to ask you, are you noticing that more young people are becoming plant parents?
Yeah, so if we look at another survey that was carried out by the University Tomorrow, 20s lab targeting the MZ generation, over half said they were currently growing pet plants like Eugene. So as interest in pet plants continues to grow, so does the number of plant clinics, places that diagnose plant health and offer tips on how to care your plants. This is much like animal hospitals.
Right.
And in addition, plant growing devices are also gaining popularity as well.
Plant clinics, very interesting. So we are not alone on this pet plant trend, but I think that one of the biggest curiosities people have about this topic is what's the difference between a house plant and having a pet plant? I also want to ask you, why do you think more young people are now interested in adopting plants as
plants, looking after those pet plants? I think there are many reasons, but the number one reason for that is their emotional comfort and connection between the plants. With more people living alone, and many in the so-called give-up generation, choosing not to marry or have children, plants offer a gentle alternative. You know, pets can be a burden sometimes, not only in terms of cost, but also the worrying of leaving them alone while at work or school. However, on the other hand, plants are low maintenance, affordable, and still offer a sense of companionship. And personally, I love that because they are so good for kids' education while they teach responsibility and clean the air of my house out. No greetings, no fuss, just a bit of care, attention, water. They quietly make your space better, feel like your home.
And a little bit of sunshine too. Right?
That is exactly right.
Then Sangyo, I want to ask you, when did this trend really start to bloom?
Well, actually, it started to increase as more and more people spent more time in home during COVID-19 season. In fact, between 2019 and 2020, before and after the onset of the pandemic, the plant growing device market grew from $7 million to $40 million. As people spend more time at home, more began to find comfort through green therapy, simply watching their plants grow. And numerous international studies have shown that plants can reduce stress and lower the blood pressure. They're also highly effective in purifying the air and enhancing interior aesthetics.
They can indeed be a very big source of healing and comfort as well. Now I want to ask you, what about outside Korea? Is this plant parenting trend also big in other countries as well?
The answer is yes. It is quite popular around the world right now. Well, especially during the pandemic. For example, in the US, a plant care application powered by artificial intelligence was launched back in 2020. And users could register their plant's name and get personalized, customized care advice because they got this information, sunlight levels, window direction, temperature, humidity, even pot size. Because these are the things that the plant owners ask themselves or would like to ask to the experts. And in just 1 year, over 22,000 plant species were registered in this application, which is quite something. So a green thumb, more like a smartphone, because these days apps do the gardening just for you.
And the market is definitely expanding.
That's right.
Then I want to ask you, Sang-Yeong, are young people overseas also interested in plant parenting?
Definitely. So according to the reports from Utah, 7 out of 10 millennials consider themselves plant parents. Now, this term is relatively new expression referring to people who develop a sense of connection by raising a plant. And NBC also analyzed the plant parent trend, saying that it gives people a sense of control over at least one part of their lives because many younger generation are living through a hard time these days. I think the fact that you can grow plants and controlling a bit of your lifestyle gives them a comfort and a relief, even though it may seem too trivial.
Absolutely. So looking at the bigger picture, it's really fascinating to think about how the word pet used to mean just dogs or cats, but now it includes plants too. Then I think this leads us to our next question, what's next? And we asked our viewers if they have any non-traditional pets. Here's what 3 of them had to share. Our first comment for this Tuesday is by studio visionary Anna. I have my 3 pink baby blankets from when I was born. They're very comforting to me and still in very good condition despite being 19 years old. Daniel Kongim says music because it does some serious deep healing. I understand why music is used for therapy sometimes. Country Hour Day 69 says plushies. Whenever I feel upset, I can just hug them and take a nap. Wow, so from pet blankets to music and even plushies, a lot of new non-conventional definition of pets. After the break, we're going to bring in a millennial from Australia for more on this pet plant trend. Stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
We're pleased to welcome Peter Michaels, an Australian millennial living in Korea, to our show today. Welcome back to the show, Peter.
Thank you for having me back again.
Thank you for joining us. So, Peter, we first want to ask you, is the pet plant trend big in Australia too? And we also want to ask you, do you have a pet plant of your own?
So I think it hasn't been a trend, but it's been more of a movement for the last more over a decade now. You can see it a bit more in the office space now as well. When I was living in Australia, my last job, we had a lot of plants around the office. So I think it's moving into that sort of direction where even the office space is getting a bit more greener. And on your second point, we have a lot of plants in the cafe here, but at home we don't have too many. But I do want to get some more into that plant because of the fact that there's a lot of those health benefits, as you guys mentioned here.
Well, Peter, I've got to confess that sometimes I say I love you to my plants sometimes, but then why do you think people are getting so emotionally attached to their plants these days?
I think it's because of the fact that the health reasons and the things that they can connect to the plants, and then they can treat it like their little baby, I guess you could say. As you were saying before, the plant baby people treat animals as their pets and their little children as well. So I think this is just a different way to connect to something with how the world is going in towards mental health is becoming more of a big thing in the world, if that makes sense.
Okay, Peter, so I think many people are now growing their own plants just like you. But do you think this trend will stick around for some time, or do you think it will fade away soon?
Excuse me. I think, like I was just saying before, it's not a trend as much. It's probably become more of a trend since the pandemic, but as in Australia, it's probably been more of a movement. So I think as a trend, it will fade a little bit, but as a movement, it will become more ingrained in the society that we live in. Because I know that in some of the buildings that we're seeing in Europe, especially, and some in Sydney as well, we see that some of the outsides of the buildings have plants on them. So it's kind of helping incorporate it into the buildings and how we live. So I think as a trend, yes, maybe it's short term, but as a movement, I think we're going to see a lot more plants incorporated into our society.
All right, Peter, thank you so much for your time today. I always appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so tying our main discussion back to Arbor Day and to the environment, caring for plants is one way to live greener, but our ultimate goal is to protect the planet for the next new generation, the future generation. So ending off our episode today, what are some practical things we can do in our everyday lives to care for the environment?
Well, of course, keeping houseplants at your place is kind of a lovely way to bring nature into your space, our lives. But it's just one small step. We need to think bigger, but we need to draw this big picture for the environment, about the park. Think about the parks, the forest, and the oceans as well. Small changes in our routines, like cutting down on plastic or saving the energy, really makes a huge difference for this life. And many young people now use eco applications to track their carbon footprint, and they sometimes join online communities for low waste living. And it's quite inspiring to see them, some people donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about the climate crisis, especially during the recent wildfires in Gyeongsang-do province several months ago. And after all, there's no point watering your pot if the forest is burning.
Right, so thinking about the big picture and looking for ways we can lend a helping hand.
And make a huge difference.
What do you suggest, Sang-yeon?
Well, the recent wildfire cases in and out of Korea have definitely made many people to feel heartbroken, and they've caused devastating impacts to communities, nature, and countless lives. So in response, many members of the MZ generation have stepped up, volunteering their time, donating for recovery efforts, or raising awareness on their social media platforms. Their actions reflect a growing sense of social responsibility and solidarity in the face of climate-related disasters. And at the same time, these tragic events serve as a powerful reminder that even a small mistake like unattended campfire or discarded cigarettes could lead to wildfire. So it's a call for all of us to stay vigilant and aware, knowing that prevention often starts from a simple everyday action.
Right, because small steps can lead to a big change. And that's all we have for News Generation today, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Kwon Ju-yeon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and Im Sang-yeon.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you, and to our viewers, thank you for spending time with us, and we'll be waiting for you here tomorrow morning. We are News Generation.